No, 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 no. Falcons fans, welcome into Falcons Today by Chat Sports. Great way to start your Monday, right? It's Moose yelling at you. ESPN just made every single one of our bloods boil. One blood, our collective blood as Falcons fans. It's boiling now because of what two ESPN reporters just released at the NFL Combine. Jeremy Fowler and Dan Graziano were both at the NFL Combine, like most of the NFL insiders and reporters that we are used to hearing from, including Adam Schefter, Ian Rappaport, et cetera, et cetera. And these two right here, Fowler and Graziano, released this gigantic article with all of the buzz that they're hearing from NFL coaches, executives, and media members over at the Combine about the upcoming free agency period and the trade market. And I have to tell you, I hate what they wrote. It made me so violently angry because the two names that they linked to the Falcons were not only quarterbacks, but also quarterbacks that I don't want. Tua and Joe Flacco. So we're going to break these two down because we've heard a lot about this guy right here, right? We kind of figured Kevin Stefanski, this would be the logical following from a veteran like Flacco to Kevin Stefanski. But this guy, I don't know why his name keeps popping up, but I'm going to explain exactly what was said to each of these reporters and what they believe is going to happen with the Falcons in this free agency period coming up right after I tell you guys that we will be live for free agency, whether or not Tua signs or whether or not Joe Flacco signs or whomever the Falcons decide to go after. We're going to be live for it. So if you want to join the ever-growing family of Falcons fans here on Falcons Today, you got to hit that subscribe button and, more importantly, turn the bell notification on to all because every time that we post, including when we go live, you're going to be a part of it. Let's start with the lefty. Tua. I honestly thought that the last Tua video that I made would kind of just squash it, and apparently I was wrong. Foolish on me that a bad quarterback wouldn't be linked to the Atlanta Falcons. But Jeremy Fowler said this, and I put the quote in there for you guys so you know that I'm not paraphrasing anything. This is a direct quote from Fowler. Something an NFL head coach said to me, unsolicited. Watch for Tua in Atlanta. Yay. Good. He goes on to say about the Tua contract, and this is just an important distinction about when Tua would actually get released. He said, I expect Miami to release Tua by the third day of the new league year, which would be March 13th. So what is that? Today's the second, 11 days from now. When $3 million of his 2027 salary would become fully guaranteed, the Dolphins will almost certainly designate him as a post-June 1st release to help defray some of the $99.2 million in dead money that it would cost to release him. So everything can happen in perpetuity, by the way. So if they decided to release him today, they could as a post-June 1st designation or a March 13th designation as well. But the reason that I don't want Tua on this is because one, he's got one of the weakest arms in the NFL. He can only also play in warm weather. Okay, well, you could take that kind of off the list because the Falcons play in a dome at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. But he's got the concussion issues that are lingering, and those aren't getting better as you get older, my friends. That only gets worse with time. And he's more turnover prone than he's ever been. And I think part of that is a mental block that plagues his game. His body subconsciously does not want to get injured again, so he plays more conservatively. There were reports that were coming out that said Tua in practice is way different than what he looks like in the game. That is a mental block. That is a mental hurdle. And last year's stats prove that. I get it. He's an accurate quarterback. But his quarterback rating was butt cheeks. He had 20 touchdowns to 15 interceptions. Doo-doo water. This makes no sense to me. Why are you linking an injury-prone, weak-armed quarterback to a team that doesn't need it? You've already got one injury-prone lefty. You don't need another one. This makes literally no sense, and it has me shaking my head. But I did some digging because I'm like, okay, maybe there's a little bit of a smokescreen here. Maybe this is just they inquired about it. There's not much there. Nope. If you go to any X account, if you go to any site on Google, they will tell you the exact same thing, including our friends over at Football Forever. The Falcons could be a possible suitor for the Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa if he's eventually released, according to Jeremy Fowler. Well, he's going to be released, guys. That's not a matter of if. That's a matter of when. It's going to happen. And if Tua signs with the Falcons, that is, I get it. As a backup, everyone's like, well, it's a great backup option. But why would you want someone that would come in and immediately cause quarterback controversy? And it's Tua. I don't have a problem with the quarterback controversy. I don't have a problem with bringing in another quarterback to compete with Micahel Penix Jr. My problem is if you're going to do that, bring in someone that's not Tua. You get my point? So if the Falcons were to make this move, I would grade it an F. An F. It would suck. It would suck. There are so many reasons why it would suck. The injuries are just one of them. But the fact that Tua's immobile, got a weak arm, not great inside of the pocket, and is basically a smaller version of Ian Book from Notre Dame and a left-handed version of, it's ridiculously bad. And it's not getting any better with the way that his play style has transformed over the last couple of years. All right, coming up next, we're going to talk Joe Flacco. I'm not as vitriol spewed with Flacco. I'm not nearly as outraged by Flacco. I kind of expected this. I still don't want Joe Flacco, and I'll explain why I feel that way. Coming up right after I tell you about today's sponsor, and that is our friends over at Factor Meals. Gotta love Factor. If you want to eat better, you still got no time and zero energy to make it happen. Factor doesn't ask you to meal prep or follow recipes. It just removes that entire problem. 2 minutes, real food, and you're done. Choose from 100 rotating weekly meals with lean proteins, colorful vegetables, whole food ingredients, and healthy fats, the stuff that you would make if you had the time. Plus, they got a brand new Muscle Pro collection. I've just got back into the gym now, so I need that more than ever. It supports strength and recovery. It's always fresh, never frozen, ready in 2 minutes, no prep, no cleanup, no mental load. So, do me a favor. Head to factormeals.com/FalconsChat50 off and use code FalconsChat50 off to get 50% off and free breakfast for 1 year. Eat like a pro this month with Factor. New subscribers only, varies by plan. One free breakfast item per box for 1 year while subscription is active. We are back in Flack. The report also in this article comes in, says that most team officials believe that Flacco will follow Kevin Stefanski. So if you talk to the team reporters, if you talk to the GMs, if you talk to the scouts, if you talk to the owners and whomever is showing up at the NFL Combine, all of them unanimously agree that they expect to bring, or Kevin Stefanski expects to bring Joe Flacco into Atlanta. Here's what Jeremy Fowler said about it, though, because this is centered around his article. Some teams have interest in veteran Joe Flacco after the way he played last season in starting roles in Cleveland and in Cincinnati, but a lot of folks in Indy say they expect Flacco to follow Kevin Stefanski to Atlanta as an option in case Micahel Penix Jr. is not ready to start the season. And look, I'll be so for real with you. I don't have a problem with Joe Flacco, the player, right? Like, he's still at 42 years old. He's a lot better than a lot of younger guys that have shown to be backup quarterbacks. So if I'm going to get a certified backup, and I want to be very clear about that, if I'm going to get a certified backup, I would take Flacco over Dylan Gabriel, right? I would take Flacco over Kenny Pickett, right? I would take the older veteran guy that's seen every defense imaginable. He's fine, but you know what you're getting. You know what this is. This is a guy that 2 games out of the year is going to look sensational. And then the other games, he's going to have 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, and a passer rating of like 87. And also, we just got rid, or are getting rid, of Kirk Cousins, who is younger and plays very similarly to what Joe Flacco does. Now, granted, he's a lot cheaper. You'll probably get him on the veteran minimum. But my point remains. If your goal is to roll in the season with Micahel Penix, if you're committing to Micahel Penix Jr., this is fine. If you are making the distinction that, like, we are going to give Penix the full year to show what he's capable of, then this makes sense. But most of what I'm reading, most of what I'm seeing is saying that they don't want this. They want a younger option to come in and compete with MPJ. Because these two dudes can't be your best options. They can't. I'm sorry. There are so many other quarterbacks that I would much rather have behind Penix or competing with Penix that are not these two guys. I'll give you a couple of examples. Daniel Jones is most likely going back to Indianapolis. But you could go out and make a pitch for Malik Willis. Okay, well, he might be going to Miami. You could bring back Marcus Mariota. You could bring Tyrod Taylor, and you could bring in Zach Wilson, who I would much rather compete with. Carson Wentz is an option. I mean, I listed Kenny Pickett on this just for shits and gigs, but you've got guys like Case Keenum, Trey Lance, Mitch Trubisky, Jimmy G. All of these, Jimmy G would be a better option. Trey Lance would probably be a better option. I'm just starting to think outside of the box, guys. I'm not saying every single one of those dudes would be better than what we're looking at. But my problem is not bringing in Joe Flacco. Because if you think about it from what Moose would want the quarterback room to look like next year, here's what mine would look like. If I could pick the perfect Falcons quarterback room in 2026, and I won't waver off of this. This is my final, this is what I want. I will have Penix starting as your QB1. You bring in Tyson Bagent in a trade to compete with him for that QB1 spot. And you have Joe Flacco as your veteran minimum QB3. So therefore, he becomes a mentor to both Penix and Bagent. They come in, and that's a great quarterback room, by the way. That's one of the best quarterback rooms in the entire NFL, without a doubt. So I think with that quarterback room right there, you can't lose, because in the event that Penix isn't ready, you've got Tyson Bagent, and if, God forbid, he were to go down for any reason, Flacco comes in, and he's your QB3, kind of like Jameis Winston was in New York for the Giants this last year. So, my final question to you is, who is your final QB target for the Falcons? You guys know where I stand. Mine is Tyson Bagent. I don't have a problem bringing Flacco in, but not as a starter. Or even as a bridge starter. It would be as a backup. That's a fine backup. Okay. Sorry to get all crazy on you this early on a Monday morning, but I'm very passionate about quarterbacks, and I'm very passionate about this team, which is why you need to subscribe and hit that little bell icon, because when we go live for free agency, my friends, you're not going to want to miss it. You don't want to miss anything. It's the very best on YouTube here for Falcons content. All right, that's all I got for you. I'll be back later today. You're going to get a double dose of Moose today. I'll be back more with some rumors, some news, maybe a little JPJ talk, as we're getting some little tidbits here as we go along. Until next time, Falcons fans, rise up and be cool.